Desperate times in China. The central bank prints trillions, but the economic collapse gets worse. From boom to bust, China duty-free group's market value evaporates by 660 billion RMB in 4 years. This Chinese industry is dying and is unlikely to recover. China's central bank is running out of options, another desperate flood of money amid deepening crisis. On May 7th, Beijing pulled out its old trick once again, flooding the economy with liquidity in a last-ditch attempt to delay the inevitable. Pan Gongsheng, governor of the People's Bank of China, stood before the press and announced a sweeping set of stimulus measures. A 0.5 percentage point cut to the reserve requirement ratio, injecting a staggering 1 trillion RMB into the system. A 0.1 percentage point cut to the policy interest rate, and a reduction of the 7-day reverse repo rate from 1.5% to 1.4%. Additionally, home loan rates under the Housing Provident Fund were slashed, while 500 billion RMB in consumer and pension reloans and 300 billion RMB in tech-related reloans were rolled out. Officials branded it as a comprehensive financial policy package to stabilize the market and restore confidence. But behind the shiny rhetoric is the same grim reality. China is printing money to stay alive. A sick economy on life support. China's economic engine is sputtering. Domestic consumption has collapsed. Exports are under siege, and youth unemployment is soaring. Officially, it's over 15%, but insiders know the real figure is far worse. The real estate bubble has burst. Local governments are drowning in debt, and the second U.S.-China trade war is gutting export revenues. Bloomberg candidly described Beijing's actions as a desperate attempt to rescue a flailing economy caught in a trade war. But let's be honest, will cutting rates and injecting trillions really save an economy in systemic decline? Not a chance. This is not a recovery plan, it's economic morphine. In 2024, China's M2 money supply surpassed 300 trillion RMB, the highest in the world. Inflation is eating away at personal savings, costs of living are skyrocketing, and wages have stagnated. People aren't spending, not because they have no money, but because they see no future. The young can't find jobs, housing remains unaffordable, and social safety nets like pensions and healthcare are crumbling. Exports. The U.S. has slapped a crushing 145% tariff on Chinese goods. Though exports to the U.S. now account for just 3% of GDP, their importance to China's manufacturing chain remains critical. The ripple effects are already being felt. A flood for the rich, a drought for the people. This so-called flood of liquidity is no lifeline for ordinary citizens. It's a golden parachute for the elite. Most of the newly released funds are funneled straight to state-owned enterprises, property giants, and debt-ridden local governments. The rich get access to cheap loans, speculate on assets, and quietly move money offshore, often converting it to US dollars or gold. As for the touted 500 billion RMB in consumer loans, or the 300 billion RMB for tech innovation, without connections, collateral, or power, the average citizen has no chance of tapping into these funds. Meanwhile, real wages stagnate, prices surge, and savings lose value by the day. The middle class is being wiped out. And what about the RMB? Unsurprisingly, the currency is under pressure. By early 2025, the renminbi has already shown signs of weakening against the dollar. The more Beijing prints, the greater the risk of a devaluation spiral. Foreign investment is fleeing. 2024 saw the lowest level of FD1 in 30 years. The elite move their wealth abroad, while the debt hole left behind grows deeper. Guess who picks up the tab? The ordinary people. Trade war fallout, Beijing's hollow gambit. Facing mounting U.S. tariffs, Xi Jinping has doubled down on a strategy of fighting to survive. At the April 26 Politburo meeting, he emphasized bottom-line thinking, a euphemism for bracing for economic pain. Pan Gongsheng's moves were branded as economic ammunition for this trade war, but their effectiveness is highly doubtful. Yes, exports to the U.S. now make up 15% of China's total exports. And while Beijing talks about pivoting to other markets, the global economy is weak. Who is going to absorb China's excess capacity? Worse still, the US is actively blocking Chinese goods rerouted through Vietnam and Mexico. Options are narrowing fast. No reform, no future, kicking the can toward collapse. China's core problem isn't a shortage of liquidity, it's the rot in its economic structure. The model of growth through overinvestment and exports has hit a dead end. Innovation is throttled by red tape and fear, while state-owned giants crush what's left of private enterprise. Instead of reform, Beijing keeps printing and flooding. It's the same mistake made by Venezuela, by Zimbabwe. Flood the market, inflate the bubble, and pray it doesn't burst, until it does. Each new injection of liquidity buys time at a higher cost. When the reckoning comes, the crash will be historic. Let's be clear, this isn't a recovery, it's a slow-motion collapse. These measures don't help the people, they protect the powerful. Trillions of RMB won't reverse consumer despair, won't make exports competitive, and won't give hope to a lost generation. Unless Beijing confronts its structural flaws head-on, this game of prolonged survival will end the way all unsustainable models do: in ruin. From boom to bust, China duty-free group's market value evaporates by 660 billion RMB in 4 years. Once a flagship of China's booming tourism economy, China duty-free is now in steep decline. Once seen as a bellwether of consumer confidence, the company is experiencing its worst crisis, with plunging profits, collapsing cash flow, and shrinking margins reflecting broader economic troubles. In 2024, revenue fell 16.38% while net profit dropped 36.44%, and operating cash flow plummeted nearly 48%. The situation deteriorated each quarter, with Q4 net profit down 76.93% year-on-year. Its worst in history. The first quarter of 2025 brought no relief, as core business stagnated and adjusted net profit still fell nearly 16%. At the heart of the collapse lies a weakened tourism sector, particularly Hainan's offshore duty-free market, which declined by nearly 30% in 2024 and another 13.3% in early 2025. Investors have lost confidence. Major institutions slashed their holdings, and the stock has fallen 5 years in a row, down 51% in 2023 alone, wiping out over 660 billion renminbi in market value. China duty-free's downfall signals more than a corporate failure. It exposes the severity of China's economic slowdown and fading consumer power. This Chinese industry is dying and is unlikely to recover. In April 2025, China's box office revenue plummeted to a level even lower than April 2012, a time when the country had only 3,200 cinemas. Today, with over 11,000 theaters, 3 times more than back then, ticket sales have barely budged. This isn't just stagnation, it's a collapse. Even the success of Neza 2 feels like a lonely candle flickering in a darkened theater. One blockbuster can't revive an entire industry frozen in time. Behind the numbers is a deeper, harsher reality. An entire generation of filmmakers is out of work. Veteran actors sit idle. Famous directors have turned to live streaming just to stay afloat. Young graduates from top film schools have no projects, no opportunities, and no hope. There are no scripts, no shoots, no budgets. Film crews have disbanded, studios sit in silence, and the dream of cinema has turned into collective unemployment. The red carpets are rolled up. There are no premieres to walk. So, how did it all fall apart? From 2015 to 2021, the film industry became a playground for speculative capital. Real estate developers, liquor companies, tech giants all dove in, not to support art, but to chase hype. IPs were sold for tens of millions, even without decent scripts. Star salaries soared to absurd levels. Bad directors led billion RMB projects because they were close to capital. The industry wasn't making movies, it was manufacturing capital stories. But movies are slow, uncertain, and deeply human. Everything speculative investors hate. And when the box office stopped printing easy money, the capital vanished overnight. In the past, a famous actor and a marketing campaign could guarantee a billion RMB box office. Now, platforms like Douban and Xiaohongshu dismantle the hype within hours. People don't pay for nonsense anymore. The industry didn't just lose money, it lost trust. Let's be honest, this isn't a temporary downturn. It's not a cyclical low. It's a reckoning, a long overdue purge of inflated egos, fake numbers, and shallow storytelling. The next Wandering Earth or Neja won't save the industry. What it needs is time, patience, and a return to real content. Until then, Chinese cinema isn't asleep. It's in intensive care with no guarantee of recovery.
30,000 Chinese swarm, poor man's supermarket, a nation in crisis. As China's economy plunges deeper into recession, desperation is spilling into the streets, household finances are stretched to the breaking point, and consumer spending has collapsed. During this year's May Day holiday, countless Chinese citizens abandoned travel plans, not out of choice, but necessity. Meanwhile, scenes of chaos unfolded at Aldi, the German discount chain now dubbed the supermarket of the poor, as tens of thousands swarmed its stores in a fierce scramble for cheap goods. On May 2nd, the topic 30,000 people emptied Aldi shelves on May Day exploded across Chinese social media. This wasn't just a viral moment, it was a stark reflection of a nation in financial freefall. After 6 slow years of testing the waters in Shanghai, Aldi made a daring leap on April 19th, opening 2 new stores in Wuxi and Suzhou. It was met with panic buying. On opening day, crowd control was enforced before noon, and shelves were stripped bare by afternoon. More than 2 weeks later, the frenzy hadn't died down. Long lines, overflowing carts, and emptied shelves painted a picture of economic despair. Driven by rock-bottom prices, 3.9 yuan sanitary pads, 8.9 yuan milk, 9.9 yuan liquor, Aldi has become a lifeline for millions struggling to get by. Since arriving in China in 2019, the chain has evolved from novelty to necessity, especially for Shanghai's overworked and underpaid working class. With over 60 stores, Aldi isn't just a supermarket anymore, it's a symbol of survival. A widely shared article by WeChat account Jinquodao declared Aldi a haven for the financially broken, praising its aggressive supply chain and low-cost strategy. With 95% of fresh products sourced directly from local farms, the company undercuts competitors with speed and scale. But this isn't just smart business, it's a lifeline for a society running out of financial oxygen. In Suzhou and Wuxi, tech hubs once buzzing with ambition, engineers, entrepreneurs, and white-collar workers are now united by one instinct: survive. Earn more, rent high, spend less has become the new urban creed. In these cities, Aldi's success isn't about marketing, it's about necessity. On May 3rd, a blogger described Aldi's Wuxi store as a war zone of consumption. By 7:30 a.m., before the doors even opened, the crowd had already broken in. Swiss rolls priced at 9.9 yuan vanished in 37 minutes. Australian beef tendons flew off shelves at 23 packs per minute. It wasn't shopping, it was survival. One 29-year-old accountant in Suzhou tallied up her haul: sanitary pads, milk, and facial cleanser for just 21.7 yuan, less than a single Starbucks coffee in Lujiazui. These victories are now milestones for China's struggling middle class. What began as frugal consumerism has morphed into a full-blown survival movement. Aldi's ultra-cheap offerings, 1 yuan spice packets, 3 yuan defective tote bags, near-expiry milk for 5 yuan, are drawing a new kind of shopper, not bargain hunters, but people pushed to the edge. Even middle-class families are no longer spending, they're rationing. Bloggers warn that the Aldi phenomenon isn't a trend, it's a symptom of shrinking paychecks, lost jobs, and a bleak future. It's a mirror to a society quietly descending into economic emergency. On March 9th, Human Resources Minister Wang Xiaoping admitted that a record 12.22 million college graduates are entering a job market with no room for them. On March 17th, official figures revealed youth unemployment had surged to 16.9%, with urban unemployment climbing to a 2-year high of 5.4%. But independent estimates suggest the true youth jobless rate, including NEETs, could be over 50%. Factories are closing, startups are folding, foreign investment is fleeing, an entire generation is losing faith and losing time. The Aldi stampede is not just about cheap milk or discounted bananas. It is about fear, a fear that tomorrow will be worse than today, that the economy will not recover, that the only thing left to do is line up early, buy whatever's left, and hope it lasts another week.